Honestly, is there anything better than spending a day on the water in the best of weather, especially when waters are crystal clear like here off the coast of Mallorca? Water sports can be so beautiful. But there's one thing that still gets the pulse racing for many skippers: harbour manoeuvres, or to be more precise, docking and undocking a boat. But you have to come home somehow.
Unterwegs mit Pantenius und damit ein herzliches Willkommen hier auf Mallorca.
Underway with Pantenius and a warm welcome here on Mallorca in Port Calanova. Different countries have different customs. While in Northern Europe it is customary to moor boats at floating pontoons or boxes with stern dolphins, here in the Mediterranean it is customary to moor yachts at moorings. And for those of you who have not done it before, Tom Rempe of Motorboat Mallorca will show us how to do it properly.
Mallorca zeigen, wie es richtig geht.
Tom is not only the managing director of Motorboat Mallorca, but has also been running the on-water boat school on the Mediterranean island for many years. Before he takes us through the maneuver, we head to the school bench for some theory.
I think the first two lines are quite self-explanatory. So we have the two bow lines, which are attached to the pier, and we're just going to take them to our starboard and our port side cleat. But now how are we going to stop the boat from crashing into the pier? And that's this mooring system which the harbour set up. So around 10-50 meters astern, or in the middle of the waterway, we have a big concrete block sunk to the bottom of the harbour, which is like a 5 to 10 ton block. Connected to this concrete block is a chain. So this one acts like our anchor. You could replace it with an anchor. Anchor, then we have the anchor chain, and then attached to the anchor chain is the so-called mooring line. The mooring line is around the length of the boat. To the front of the mooring line is attached the pilot line or the lift line, which then connects to the shore. So arriving at this position, we would use our boat hook to fetch this pilot line, lift the pilot line up so it actually comes up here, and by lifting the pilot line it's going to lift us our mooring line. So we're ending up in a situation where the mooring line lifts our mooring, and we can take it and bring it to our stern and put it out to our stern cleat. It's actually two lines, one going for the starboard and one going for the port side. So same as with the anchoring situation, you see that we lift the chain a little bit up, which keeps this line tensioned, and the chain stays in place by our anchor, in this case the concrete block. But how are we going to get it back up? So next time when you drop it, the pilot line is going to still be attached to the shore in the very front. So we sink it, actually two pilot lines. So when it's going to sink down to the bottom, we still have the pilot line attached to lift this mooring line back up. And the setup, the two mooring lines in the back and the two bow lines in the front, keep the boat leveled right in the middle of these 2 points.
So far, so clear. We continue outside on the Axopar 37.
So yeah, we're on board of this Axopar 37. Just to understand the principle behind this mooring situation. So we don't have the advantage what you see in many moorings or marinas, that you have these fingers to get most space utilized in Spain, especially as the mooring is very expensive. The boats are put in without any fingers in between, so no pier is separating the boats. That means we need a system to keep the boat in the middle position without swinging left and right, and keep it in front or in back secured so it won't hit the pier or it won't leave the mooring. So we have two bow lines, starboard and port. They both have these so-called springs to dampen a little bit if we have waves here in the port. And attached to this bow lines. In our case, we have on the starboard and on the port side a pickup line for our mooring. So on our starboard side, in this case, it's marked green, and we have the same on our port side, which is marked red. This line is actually not a line to tie our boat to. This is just a pickup line which picks up the mooring. We drop the mooring line when we leave the mooring. So with this one, we're picking up the mooring which sits on the ground. Now you can see here come up, the pickup line is a bit thinner, then the actual mooring line gets a little bit too high diameter. And that brings us to our actual mooring line. You can see it's connected to our stern starboard cleat. And this mooring line then goes down and connects starboard and port side to a chain. You can see that when I'm pulling it up a little bit. It's like a bridle connected to a chain, and this chain is connected to a big concrete block. So the concrete block is actually what keeps or stops the boat hitting the pier. When leaving the port, if we would release first our aft mooring lines, the boat would slowly start drifting forward and eventually hit the pier at a low speed, but it would still touch the pier. So if we release first our bow lines, what the boat does, it starts drifting out astern, and we have all the time in the world to just release these stern lines and drop them in the water. To pick them up, we just explained how that works. We have a shortcut here in our moorings. We just put it, hang it over the neighbor. So when the neighbor would leave, he would drop our line and his line in. If we come back, we have the advantage that we can just pick it up where we left it, and it saves us to use the pilot line to bring the line all the way from the bow into this position. You can see it saves us the finger, the space of the finger, which makes it on this whole pier we can probably put 2 extra boats, but it gives us the disadvantage that we always have to run those lines.
So much for the dry run. Now we want to see everything in practice. Important, remember to disconnect the shore power cable and take it with you. Then start the engines.
So we're going to take this boat off the mooring now. It's this time a bit easier. We have a crew on board. We're going to do the lines. Before we do anything else, we want to make sure the engines are running and we have no traffic in our channel. And then we have the crew already ready at the lines on the bow. So we're going to release first the bow lines, starboard and port. In this case, we're going to release port first because we have wind coming from our starboard side. And then we're going to release the lines in our stern. And same there, we want to release on the port side first as well. Good on the bow.
Ready?
Release the lines.
Release the lines.
So the wind picked up a little bit. So what's going to happen, we're going to start drifting a little bit to our neighboring boat. On purpose, I'm not going to do anything about it. First, there's not much we could do. There's one option we always have. That's grab our neighbors. But in this case, I just want to demonstrate how little impact we actually have if we drift by the wind, ready on the stern lines, and just make sure they don't go in the prop.
Just to be clear, a mooring line in the propeller is no fun, so really make sure the line is sunk before continuing the maneuver.
So we want to make sure the props are free, so the lines are on the bottom, or at least released. And then we can steer away from our neighbor and put the engines in reverse. Get it off the mooring. We really want to focus only on our helm. Don't focus too much on the throttle. We just make it a smooth move to drive out in a big arch. And in case we would need, we have our bow thruster to keep us free from the boat which is neighboring us. In reverse with the outboard engines, it's very nice that the boat exactly goes where we face the engines. So if we face them a bit to our port side, really the boat follows where the engines are pointing in a very accurate way. It makes it easy for us to stay clear of other boats, to stay clear of the mooring lines, starboard and port. As we are in a demonstration mode, we're not going to take the boat to the next bay, even if we would like to go for a swim. We're just going to put it back on to the mooring.
Whereas unmooring often works somehow even for inexperienced skippers, mooring is usually more of a problem.
And opposite from what we just did when taking the boat out of the mooring, when bringing it back in our slip, we want to keep the helm in a neutral position or in a central position. And this time we're going to do a lot with our throttles. So we have starboard and port engine, and we have starboard and port throttle. Coming back in here, we want to keep the boat very centered, not too close to this one, but as well we don't need too much room from the opposite side to drive in. Instead, we're going to go centered in the middle with both engines in forward. You can just double check that the bow thruster is working. And once our foredeck, more or less a third of the front of the boat, reaches the designated mooring, we're going to start by rotating the boat on its own axle. We do that by putting the inner engine, in this case it's the starboard engine, into reverse, and the outside engine, in this case the port engine, into forward. We can support that with the bow thruster, and I'm a big fan of using what we have on board, so there's no point on having a bow thruster when we don't want to use it. So there's nothing wrong about using it. Put them both into neutral to see what the boat does on the drifting or with its own momentum. We can correct even more and have the boat point into the mooring. And as once we're pointing, we can go dead ahead by using both engines in forward. If we would have used a lot the helm, we can never be certain the position of our engines. So if we would put it in, or we put it in reverse with the steering hard to starboard, the boat stern would go hard to starboard. The first time we want to use the helm now is when we're all the way in. In this case, I want to put the engines to starboard to close the gap to our neighbor. And with a very short, almost a burst into reverse, we can center the boat on its mooring. In the meantime, our crew is putting the bow lines. We can help him to center the boat with the bow thruster.
Always grab the line from which the wind comes first, which means the upwind line. This will help to stabilize the boat.
He will pick up now our port side mooring. So we're not going to do any work now with our port side engines, just to be sure that the propeller is not spinning in the back. He's putting on gloves as the line is sometimes full of muscles or other sharp objects. And so we're trying to avoid cutting us. I have the starboard engine now in reverse, just to keep clear of the pier. If I feel it's too much, then I can put it back into neutral, or to move the boat back a little bit, put it back to reverse. What as well I can do, I can center or position the boat while I'm in reverse, and I can move the stern by pointing the engine in one or the other direction. So if I steer all the way to port, the whole boat gonna move to port, or vice versa. Bring it to starboard, the boat gonna start to go to starboard, as long as I'm in reverse. As now we have the mooring line on, I can put it back to neutral, and we are all safe in the mooring. Can stop the engines, and nothing happens. To see, this is very calm movement. in the worst case scenario, we would drift too close to the neighboring boat, we would drift too close to a pier. There's nothing which can happen. The only thing what we can do wrong is to start to work too much with the engines, because then we have 600 horsepower pushing or pulling us kind of uncontrolled. If we just let us drift, we can always step over to the side and push us free from the neighboring boat.
Now it's time to practice, and if you want to sail without a crew, take a look at our next film, Single-Handed Maneuvers with Mooring Lines and Motorboat. Tom has some exciting tips for you.